Resident Evil fans have been asking the same question for years. Where is the Code Veronica remake? We've got an RE2 remake, RE3 remake, RE4 remake, even rumors about RE5 and RE0. But somehow the game that introduced Claire's best story, the Ashford family, and one of the most iconic villains, still hasn't been touched. So today we're breaking down why Capcom hasn't done it, what's really happening behind the scenes, and how 2028 could be the year we see Code Veronica return. Code Veronica isn't just another RE game, it's a real sequel to RE2, the continuation to Claire's story, way more than RE3 hilariously enough. It literally has Claire and Chris reunited at last, the setup for the Fall Umbrella, the Ashford family's twisted origin, so there's definitely a lot there to obviously unpack and to explore in a new remake. Yep, Capcom has always treated this like a side story, and a lot of people have treated it as such. I'm not sure if it's because it's not a numbered entry, or that it released for the Dreamcast. And for the people who don't know, Capcom has always put numbered entries on PlayStation, while other stories or spin-offs would find its way to other platforms. Thus could be the potential reason why Capcom hasn't prioritized it. Capcom has been following a very clear pattern lately with their remakes. After the massive success of Resident Evil 2 Remake, a follow-up to that being Resident Evil 3 Remake is a logical decision. Plus, given that you can reuse assets like the original did, it makes a ton of sense actually. It makes also sense why we got it the year after. The natural next step for them would be Resident Evil 4 Remake. These games all have sold extremely well, have massive mainstream recognition, despite obviously Resident Evil 3 being a little bit shaky, and are part of the number club. Code Veronica? Well, even though it's a beloved classic, it didn't hit like the rest did unfortunately, not having the same global reach I'm afraid, as it's the worst selling mainline entry. Which, it wasn't actually its fault considering it was on the Dreamcast, and you know, that was a shaky platform as it is. Capcom definitely knows this and is why it skipped to obviously Resident Evil 4 Remake. Plus, there's a lot more work to be done with a CV remake. The RE engine is amazing, of course, they've used it for so many games, but it's not perfect. Code Veronica could very well provide a decent challenge for the engine. Obviously, you got dual protagonist switching, high camp, quite jarring, especially considering you know the animations you would have to pull, and of course, just naturally the game itself and the reworks and stuff like Steve definitely provides a lot more work to be done than previous remakes. Rumors indicate that also that CV will potentially be a semi-open sort of world with Rockford, which makes a ton of sense when you think about it, considering that you will kind of spend a lot of your time there, but obviously given that it is obviously semi-open world, does obviously play in some issues. If you play or know about Monster Hunter Wilds or Dragon Dogma 2, then that could obviously spell disaster, as those two games kind of struggle as, semi-open world, and the RE engine isn't exactly foolproof for semi-open sort of games, so, there's still work to be done, and that's probably why they're also working on that other engine, which is the Rex engine, or something along those lines, which we haven't really gotten much of an update around. Meaning it isn't a click and paste, since there's going to have to be big changes. It's riskier, more expensive, and demands more time than what even Resident Evil 4 Remake ever did. But here's the thing, fans want this remake badly, and whenever Capcom posts their surveys, Code Veronica ranks extremely high, but Capcom could be waiting for the right moment. You know how Leon is in Resident Evil Requiem? Well, believe it or not, this ties into his trilogy, that being Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 4 Remake, and now Resident Evil Requiem. Thus, Gollum talked about this sometime back, referring to this as his trilogy, back when we was living off Resident Evil 9 rumors. Jeez, remember those days? I mean, it was kind of like yesterday, honestly, so you probably do. Maybe they'll do the same thing with other classic characters, like Jill, Rebecca, and of course Claire Redfield. I mean, this is one of Claire's strongest narratives, backed up with an important and crucial setup, so they will have to remake this game eventually, just a matter of when. Based on Capcom's release spacing, Resident Evil 7 2017, Resident Evil 2 Remake 2019, Resident Evil 3 Remake 2020, Resident Evil 8 2021, Resident Evil 4 Remake 2023, and Resident Evil 9 releasing this year 2026. Capcom rarely releases 2 or 3 Resi games together like that, but considering this is the 30th anniversary, I would imagine them to do something special again. releasing Requiem this year and probably Code Veronica next year. I mean, it's not really that much of a stretch, as we know that they work on multiple titles at once, and one of these titles that they've been working on could very well be Code Veronica, along with others of course, naturally. However, I will say 2028 as they probably might drop a Resident Evil 1 remake again for 2027. But if that's not the case, then I would say 2027 is perfect for them. We now know that a CV remake is expensive and a risky venture for Capcom than previous remakes, but again, it's important that CV gets a remake, as an RE5 remake wouldn't hit the same without it. I'll probably make another CV video going over things that should change. Would you guys be down for something like that? And do you see Code Veronica remake happening in the future? Let me know in the comments, and make sure to hit that like button and subscribe button for more Resident Evil content. Now you guys probably, or most of you probably have left by now, but I kind of want to go over, obviously Resident Evil on the channel, because as you know, it's kind of been a rocky, bumpy ride, as obviously I've gone from doing Resident Evil content, then doing some other random stuff, then back to Resident Evil, and then rinse and repeat, and it's obviously kind of inconsistent and not really great. So I've come to the conclusion that yeah, this channel will obviously be Resident Evil focus slash obviously horror focus in general, and I would probably save my other content for a second channel possibly in the future when the time is right. And a reason why I've come to this conclusion and why I'm talking about it now is because I've noticed over the last, looking at literally on YouTube Studio, really, I can see how inconsistent I've been when it comes to Resident Evil content, and I definitely want to fix that. And I know you guys are probably wondering, why am I all over the place? Honestly, I wasn't sure if I should take the channel into a full horror route, as I'm not really sure if I wanted to do that, because there was other games at the time, and still to some degree, I want to talk about. And I'm not sure if I should really dedicate a whole new channel just for those games, but I think it's just for the best case scenario that I do, because I obviously don't want to confuse you guys with I don't know, horror, and then something, unrelated that doesn't really connect with the channel sort of real theme, I guess you could say. So that's why I've decided to fully embrace horror and of course just stick with that, and at some point make something else with the other games, like a new channel. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify that before anyone been scratching their head for the last couple months why I've been all over the place. And yeah, it's just kind of that. And at the same time, I wanted to make a second channel a long time ago, but I realized that would just really be double the work. But then I thought, what if I just make a second channel which I sometimes upload? I was like, yeah, just make this channel the main horror account, and obviously the other one to be something else. So yeah, I just come to that conclusion. Without further ado, peace out guys, and have a lovely day. I'll see you all next time.